Brace yourself. Hurricane Erin poses a serious threat to the U.S. coastline, and not in the way most people expect. While it may not barrel directly into land, its enormous size and power mean the East Coast could still be hit hard by crashing waves, flooding, and dangerous rip currents. And here's where things get even more interesting. Some experts argue it's the storm's sheer size, not just wind speed, that truly amplifies its destructive potential. Let's break it down. On Tuesday, warning flags flapped in the wind along beaches in places like Duck, North Carolina, forbidding swimming as dangerous rip currents surged. Forecasters from the National Hurricane Center warned that Erin, positioned 615 miles south-southeast of Cape Hatteras and moving north-northwest at 10 miles per hour, could intensify further even after dropping to 105 miles per hour winds from a fierce 140 miles per hour the day before. The storm, already a giant, may become even larger and meaner. Here's the catch. Erin likely won't actually make landfall in the United States, but that doesn't mean beach towns are in the clear. Meteorologists say the hurricane's vast reach will hurl towering waves up to 20 feet, or perhaps even higher, towards the shore, while storm surges threaten to flood coastal communities. A tropical storm warning is in place for the Outer Banks, specifically the area from Beaufort Inlet up to Duck. Conditions were expected to deteriorate by late Wednesday, with tropical storm force winds and heavy rain rolling in. The National Hurricane Center has also issued a storm surge warning for the coastline from Cape Lookout to Duck, cautioning that water could rise 2 to 4 feet above ground level, creating life-threatening flooding hazards. As of Tuesday, emergency officials weren't taking any chances. Authorities ordered mandatory evacuations for residents and visitors on Hatteras and Ocracoke Islands, mindful that Highway 12, the lifeline linking North Carolina's scattered beach communities, could soon be submerged by rising seawater. By Tuesday afternoon, that concern was already becoming a reality as waves washed over sections of the road. Dare County Emergency Management Director Drew Pearson was blunt. "I encourage all residents and visitors to heed the evacuation order and take action to protect themselves, to protect their property, and to get up and leave now." The National Weather Service office in Morehead City, North Carolina, issued its own grave warning. Once floodwaters arrive, some low-lying roads and vehicles could stay underwater for days. Even areas far from the hurricane's eye aren't safe, as Erin's colossal wind field reaches much farther than many realize. And this is the part most people miss. You don't have to live on the beach to feel Erin's impact. From Florida all the way to Long Island, New York, the risk of deadly surf and rip currents is high. Forecasters urge anyone visiting East Coast beaches to check local and national rip current alerts before dipping their toes in the sand. In a surprising twist, recent forecast updates nudged Erin's trajectory slightly westward, which may increase potential effects on land. Though the storm's wind speeds have decreased since their 160-mile-per-hour peak last weekend, the real danger isn't just in those numbers. The National Hurricane Center and local experts emphasize that this storm's massive size, not only its brute wind force, is what sets it apart and makes it so hazardous. Some may wonder, with the hurricane so far out at sea, how can it possibly threaten the coast? As Eric Hedden from the National Weather Service explained, the storm's center may be distant, but its effects reach hundreds of miles. Erin projects tropical storm force winds up to 230 miles from its eye, and hurricane force winds reaching 80 miles out. A satellite view captured Erin as it swept northwest through the Atlantic, its path expected to curve towards then swing away from the eastern U.S. shoreline in the coming days. What's unusual and possibly underestimated in the official advisories is just how far the storm's winds and high seas might be felt along the coastline, especially from North Carolina up through southern New England. Here's why the size factor stirs debate. People often fixate on wind speed to gauge a hurricane's danger, but scientists like Professor Matthew Jansen of the Stevens Institute of Technology argue the sheer span of a hurricane often determines the true extent of flooding and damage. Larger storms cause higher storm surges over broader areas, which can devastate long stretches of vulnerable shoreline. Take the Outer Banks, for example, a chain of slender barrier islands sometimes only 1,000 feet wide at points. That narrowness makes them incredibly at risk for being washed over or eroded by even moderate storms. To make matters more vivid, Erin's waves may pound the coastal surf zone with smashing heights of 15 to 20 feet or more, enough to reshape beaches, level dunes, and drag sand back out to sea. On a positive note, expert Matthew Jansen points out that the U.S. mainland seems likely to avoid a direct hit from Erin, as it's tracking parallel to the shore rather than charging straight in. For communities further inland, the threat is much less severe. This will be very much a beachside event. Still, both Hedden and Jansen agree that coastal changes could be dramatic, with coastlines and dunes likely to suffer significant erosion and reshaping. Erin is the season's first hurricane in the Atlantic since summer began, but here's where a controversial discussion develops. Despite a relatively slow start to hurricane season, most meteorologists now believe climate change will result in fewer overall hurricanes, but those that do form will likely be more intense. Jansen notes that Erin, with its ferocious winds and size, may fit this exact pattern. Hotter, moister air, thanks to global warming, provides extra energy for these megastorms, while abnormally warm ocean waters fuel not only their wind power, but also their rain content, ratcheting up the risks of serious flooding and catastrophic damage. Here's a question worth debating. Should we be more worried about the frequency or the escalating intensity of modern hurricanes? Do you think coastal communities are doing enough to adapt to this new normal? Where should our priorities be? In forecasting, preparation, or tackling climate change at its source? Chime in below. Your perspective could spark the next big conversation.